Coming up, we went to Howl-O-Scream Orlando, and we're going to talk about how it compares to Halloween Horror Nights on this week's episode of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. I am your host, the Invisible Man, and today I am joined alongside by Ghostbuster.
Hello.
Yes,
I just hit my head on the microphone before we started.
That's all fine too. I'm also having issues. Now I am your host, Craig Williams. If you are watching this, you understand why the audio probably sounds really muffled. And if you are listening, it is because I am wearing an Invisible Man costume that has cloth all around my face, and including my mouth. So I am like talking through 6 layers of cloth, and I will probably pass out at some point during this episode.
Hey, you know what though? This says 100% spooky.
Excellent. I just hope that we'll be able to make it through this very spooky episode because it is a good one. We get asked every single year, will you guys go and cover Howl-O-Scream in Tampa at Busch Gardens? And we never have gone personally, but haven't gone for coverage. And then with the announcement that this year they were having Howl-O-Scream in Orlando, at SeaWorld, we got asked the question again, will you go and cover it? And, well, obviously it is right before Halloween, so there's not a lot of time left for the event, but we were able to get out and actually cover the event. I didn't realize also when wearing this costume that I committed to the head bit of it, but I didn't commit to the hands.
Oh, that's what I was like, why aren't you going to wear a jacket?
Well, I figured that with the jacket, I would just be too ridiculously hot. But I do have like the same like robe jacket that he wears. But yeah, I went for the cheap commit on this one, and I feel like I really failed us.
I'm just wearing a jacket.
Fantastic.
I mean, yeah, waist down. I'm just a regular person. I don't have my whole outfit on.
Fantastic. That is absolutely excellent. But yes, we did go to Howl-O-Scream Orlando, so we are going to talk about it. Before we get started, we want to remind you this week's episode is brought to you by the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. That makes no sense.
What? We are the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition.
I'm so hot. This week's episode is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. If you like our content and you want to support us, please consider booking your next vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. It costs you no extra money, and you get that world-class level of support from a Dreams Unlimited Travel agent. So head over to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com today for a free, no-obligation quote. Now, Rhino, are you ready to talk about Howl-O-Scream Orlando?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So the first thing I have to say with this is not an official review. We were actually, I don't want to say we were invited by SeaWorld to come out and check out the event. We kind of were in a way. Their media department did reach out and asked if we were interested in going. And so, of course, we took the chance to attend, and they did give us free tickets to get into the event. So I need to make that clear up front that we personally, Rhino and I, paid no money to get into the event. And so, you know what? Take all of this with a grain of salt. We're going to try to talk more just about what happened at the event versus a review, but ultimately, every now and then we're probably going to stumble up and give some thoughts on that, but just wanted to make that known right away that we did not have to pay for our tickets. This also wasn't a media event that happened at the start of Howl-O-Scream. We were just given free tickets later on, so because of it, we didn't have any video inside the houses because you're not allowed to film in their houses. And even beyond that, we went on a night that actually had a little bit of rain, so we weren't able to bring our cameras safely. So we couldn't even get the kind of footage that we normally would like to get in even scare zone areas and such. And part of the reason why you might say, oh, well, why didn't you just bring a backpack and put your cameras in there? Well, they actually don't allow backpacks for
Yeah.
Hallow Scream. So that made it very complicated. We had to literally follow the rules that any other normal guest would do. So basically, it couldn't fit in a fanny pack. It wasn't getting into the event.
Yep. That's true.
That is true. So, Rhino, I'm going to have to ask you as we go along with this to maybe help me because I don't have prescription contacts in or sunglasses. So I can't really see my phone to talk about all the different things that we did experience at Hallow Scream Orlando. But you know what? I'm sure as heck going to try. So first, I'm going to ask, because this isn't a review type thing, but Rhino, what were your expectations, at least going into Hallow Scream?
I don't think I actually had any really because I have never done. I've never done the Busch Gardens one, yes, or the Tampa one, sorry, and so I am not a fan of SeaWorld. I'm not a fan. I should say this. I have not been to SeaWorld often, is what I should say. I've been like twice. So I'm not familiar and about how it all goes, like park layout or any of that stuff. So as in I'm not an annual pass holder or anything like that. So this was only probably my third trip to this park ever. So I literally was like, I have no idea what to expect from it. It's funny because since we've gone now, I've seen so many people, like friends and stuff like that I follow on like Instagram, posting photos of like having been there, and I'm like, where were all these photos ahead of time? So I had some sort of idea of what we were doing, like to be like, oh, you went. Why don't you give me a heads up? I don't know what to do, So, but yeah, I no expectation really. Just kind of hoping for a good scare is all.
Yeah. Oh no, I completely understand your thoughts in terms of that, and I actually, I guess I muted my expectations a little bit because I have done Tampa's, and we did Knott's Scary Farm a couple years ago. Not that Knott's and Busch Gardens are connected in that way, but it's in terms of doing other haunted events inside theme parks that aren't Universal. So I had some level of expectation, but this is their first year of the event. They were only doing 4 houses and 4 scare zones and 2 shows. So just like knowing that going into it, I wasn't expecting the world out of it because you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Granted, they were starting, I think, in a good place with having Busch Gardens Tampa just down the road doing Hallow Scream for many years, very successfully. And then in Orlando, pulling a former Halloween Horror Nights master, Patrick Brayard, into the team to help with it. So they were definitely on the right step to success. But I will admit, too, SeaWorld is a very hard park to navigate.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think that's what threw me the most is when we got in there about being like, okay, we'll park over here because I think that's the entrance, but there was like a prom or some sort of homecoming thing going on. I guess it would be homecoming because it's the fall, but and so we're like, oh, the entrance is way back here, and then you go in through here, but then like SeaWorld is not circular, right? It's so
zigzaggy.
Yeah, and so that was the part where we were like, where are the houses? Like, where do we go? But I don't know. Maybe that added to the atmosphere of being like a little bit of the nervousness of being like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm trying to pretend to be confident enough that these people won't try and jump out and scare me.
Yeah, and so I think that's another thing to point out too. So the 4 scare zones that we have at Hallow Scream Orlando, because I did mention that there are scare zones. The 4 ones they have are...
I have them...
thank you.
I was going to say, it is Sea
of Souls,
Deadly Ambush, Sea of Souls, Frozen Terror, and Witchcraft Bayou.
Yeah. And so I guess what I wanted to say about these in terms of this compared to Halloween Horror Nights, Halloween Horror Nights definitely goes more for the intricate props and setting the mood. And it's almost to the point now where Halloween Horror Nights sets up their scare zones as photo ops more than anything. That's not what SeaWorld Orlando attempts to do with their scare zones. Their objective is, they will have a little bit of props so you clearly understand what part you're in, what part of the scare zone you're in. Like in the Bayou one, there was like a little shack that kind of felt like very Pirates of the Caribbean-esque. And, then there was all the characters that were walking around. They were dressed and themed to the area very well, in my opinion. But the method of scaring is very different.
Yeah. Well, it's like at Universal, because everything is so intricate. The thing about Universal is they carry through the kind of the message of the park, which is like stepping into the movies, right? And so when you're there for Halloween Horror Nights, whether it's a scare zone or the house or whatever, you literally have that sensation of being like you are in a fully fledged out story that is so complicated that there is a chance that if you went every night of the event, that you might not even know the complete intricacies of the ins and outs of the thought process that went into it. And like if you were to prop up a camera, I'd say in most places at Universal, you could literally be like, here I am filming a movie. Like you could make it looks cinematic in a way. Whereas SeaWorld, definitely, it was more like, it reminded me of like when I used to live in Massachusetts, like when you'd have the scare places that would show up there where you'd be like, oh, that's really good, for this set or whatever. It felt like that, like a little more. Yes, we add the theme because we know people like a theme, but we want it. We also, our objective is to just like scare you. Like, I couldn't pick out who was this character if that's what they even call them at SeaWorld, in any one of the scare zones. Like, it was a 50-50 shot. Like, some people I'd be like, that person who's clearly dressed like they have blood on them and everything like that, that's a scary person. But there were so many times that we'd be walking and I'd be like, oh, this regular person right next to me. And it's just like turn and yell. And I'd be like, oh my God, that was a character,
Oh yeah, no. So, and that's why it was easier in like the stuff like the Bayou one, because you could clearly tell. But the thing is, their scare zones are so dark that you actually can't even see the people until they're like right up on you. In some areas where there is some lighting, it works out a little bit better, but these are not well lit scare zones that allow you to take in the details, because a lot of those aren't there. The main objective is to scare you. And that means you might even find people hiding in the bushes, dressed as bushes to scare you. And it is so effective and worked. And then the next time you pass through that section, you're like, okay, I know there's a person right there, but then they're not. And they have moved on to a different place. And so their goal is to terrify you. And it is definitely different. And that's also why they added the thing where you could wear the lanyard, so that way they wouldn't scare you. It makes sense now why the lanyard
would be lit up, too,
exactly.
So they could see it from a distance,
Exactly. Not that we use that, but I understand why they have it, because in these scare zones, like, you really, really, really could be just flat out terrified. And these performers, they are the type that will follow you in their zone, but they want to get the scares out of you. So I think they're really effective at the way they scare. Again, very different from Halloween Horror Nights and the picture you painted, but still, in terms of frightening, I think it's just, it comes down to personal preference.
It's much more unexpected, I feel like. Whereas at Universal, you're like, oh, I can see this scary thing coming toward me. Whereas here, it's just like, oh God, like somebody's right here. Like,
yeah. No, I am all on board with that. And I know all of us at one point in time going through the scare zones, I think they got us multiple times, to the point that we went to get a beer in the section by Mako, I want to say, and you were terrified to go back out solely because you didn't want to get afraid.
And that was where the closest bathroom was too. So it was like, but you guys went on the ride, and I was standing out front with my friend Brandon, and I was like, I'll just lean like right here against this wall of seashells. Clearly, I'll be okay. And like literally, as my brain finished that thought, and I was holding my drink, and I think I was holding your drink because you went on the ride, and it was like she scared me so much. This person just like all of a sudden right behind me screamed, and I was like, oh, and I shook the drink out onto Brandon, and I felt terrible, but she got me good.
She did. And in that mess, I lost some of my beer. Then I still haven't forgiven you for it, but I feel like I will probably learn to at some point.
Here's the tip on the drinks before we get too far away from this, all right? Because when you first walk into the event, there is like a bar, like a setup bar that has
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like a strip club, but it's there.
It
And
was like the Sirens bar.
yes, that's it. And so it's, there's some dancers. I don't know why they're all women. Some should be men. I'm just saying. But anyway, and they have like mixed drinks, and there's a very limited number of beer there. If you go into the park a little bit further, because I prefer to have beer at events like these, I think normally. I don't know. It depends on the mood. But they have like drastically different selections at other ones, and the one bar that was outside of like Mako and that water
Infinity
ride,
Falls.
Yes, Infinity Falls. That bar had a pretty nice selection of beers. There was like a cranberry Kringle beer. There was like there was the Orange Blossom, the two different versions of that. That were like, I don't know. That was good. I liked that there was more stuff at different places.
Yeah, it was, well, first off, it was draft beer, which we prefer to bottle,
Yes.
which you're finding at the other tents and areas. So it was draft beer. It was good local draft beers. And then you could also get all like the event cocktails and specialty drinks. So it's not like you were completely out of luck if you did want some of the stuff that you would find throughout the event, the specialty ones. And what was cool about that Infinity Falls one is that there was also like trapeze artists that were just above you while you were getting your drinks.
Yeah.
There were, sometimes they would do like I don't know the official names. I mean, they're aerialists, so sometimes they would be holding on to the piece of cloth, or they'd be in the ring, and it was like, okay, I'm being entertained while I'm getting a drink. That's pretty wild. So definitely something unique, and we've mentioned Mako and Infinity Falls now, so I guess that's a good time to say, too, that those are the two rides that were open for this event. I don't know if it's always that, if it changes, and some of the other coasters are open, and it was just kind of weird because half the park was, being used by that weird prom homecoming type thing that was happening while we were there. But those are the two attractions that were open, and we took advantage of riding Mako, not Infinity Falls, their water raft ride. We didn't want to get wet, but it was my first time getting to ride Mako, and that did not unseat Velocicoaster for me. I think Velocicoaster is still my favorite coaster in Orlando, but Mako is absolutely the second best one. And Rhino, I really wish you would have went on.
I don't know.
You had to hold the beers, and it was nighttime.
Yeah.
And that scares you.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of if it's an outdoor row, it's like I got to see the track before I do it, so I can like mentally prepare myself. I'm just realizing too that the bar that we had gotten, the Sirens Last Call, that I should have mentioned that there were not just the regular bars, but there were like themed bars that they had set up along the way. So that was, I think that was a nice touch. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely was a nice touch. And before we get to the houses, I know that it's kind of saving the best for last, but I do want to talk about the two shows. A lot of people that love Universal also love Halloween Horror Nights and the live entertainment that they have there, like this year, Halloween Nightmare Fuel. At SeaWorld for Hallow Scream Orlando, the equivalent to that was called Monster Stomp. It
was like Beetlejuice's Graveyard Review. It reminded me of that. Or like that show, the Elvira show we had seen at in Not Scary Farm, but the Elvira show's different because it was freaking Elvira. So
yeah, it was Elvira. There was her jugglies that were shaking around in circles. She came out on a couch in a car at one point.
I rewatched the show on YouTube recently too. She does the backflip across the stage and then comes out and was like, "Whoa!"
Oh yeah,
and then
that
they
awesome
toss
little
the
cowboy
mannequin
switch
from person to person. Like that show was fantastic.
It was such a ridiculous show. It was so good. And Monster Stomp, it was weird. It was a story about Jack the Ripper, and the only reason I could tell what they were singing was because they were pop songs. Otherwise, I would have had no idea what was going on. The music mix was so loud in the theater and everyone had a reverb on their voice, so it was just echoing all throughout. It was impossible to hear what was going on. But you know what? I could still tell that the performers in there were excellent at what they did. And there was this awesome drum sequence in the middle.
With the knives? Yeah. That was cool.
And so there was definitely highlights to it. We made half of our group wait in line for like
It's like 25 minutes.
yeah, a while. Whereas Rhino and I walked up right at the last second, and we grabbed our drinks and then went and sat down like 5 minutes before the show. So I was like, oh, for a 5 minute wait, this was awesome. I don't know, but you know, in terms of having that entertainment for a little while, because you're always afraid with any shows that, oh, I'm taken away from houses and other things. But I definitely think they need to make some adjustments to this next year if they want to continue on.
Yeah.
But it was a good effort for a big show like that to start things off. And the other show, unless you have something else to say about it.
I can wait till after we mention the other show, but I do have something to say about it in general. No, well, I didn't really, other than like I didn't catch, I don't think, the full aspect of the other show, because I don't know that I would have even called it a show. But like my thing with like, okay, that bar, the siren song when you come in, and the Monster Stomp show, and like, it feels to me like this event was designed by men, like,
Yeah.
all heterosexual men. And I'm not trying to knock it in a bad way, but one of the things I love about Universal is this weird shift it's almost had, where it feels very like LGBTQ positive. Like, it feels like there's a lot of like people who identify as queer, like, who find this community at Halloween Horror Nights that kind of lets you be your weird self, you know, like, because we're all weirdos and everything like that. And so, like, I'm not calling queer people weird, because I myself am strange and unusual, but I just think that it's like, this vibe to me felt like the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of over-sexualization of only women, and I wish, and I'm not trying to be a pervert, but I'm just saying, like, I wish it had been done to men as well, and it would have felt like a little bit more of an even playing field. It didn't make me feel like necessarily uncomfortable or anything like that, but it was very noticeable for me, but I'm always looking for stuff like that.
Yeah, this made me feel like the first time when I went to Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood. It was like just all these.
Is that when you went with Sean?
Yes.
And that was actually one of the first episodes of the Dis Unplugged I ever listened to, and I remember him talking about saying that it was a lot of like scantily clad women and you know, a lot of lady skin. Ew.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but no, there was a lot of just women dancing around and like no men around. So
Yeah.
I feel like that will change and adjust with time, but you're absolutely right. It was definitely more slanted towards women dancing around.
Yes,
And
yeah.
they need to be fair to all audiences. 'Cause
I'm
as you
not saying
pointed
I
out-
didn't have a good time. I'm just saying it was noticeable to me, and that I would hope like it would be like, I wish there had been a male dancer in the siren song. I know people, well, sirens are female. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you can adjust. It's 2021. We can adjust that.
With that show, we had no idea what was going on. It just looked like a bunch of sirens dancing around, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know if there was more to it, and we just like missed it because we were getting in line for that last house or not. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, with the houses, let's wrap things up with that, because I think that's the big one. And only 4 houses compared to even Busch Gardens Tampa that has like 9 houses at their event, and then obviously Halloween Horror Nights has 10 houses. These houses are extremely similar to the ones at Busch Gardens Tampa. You know, they are heavily themed. I wouldn't say that they are under-themed.
No.
It's just different. They're very similar to Halloween Horror Nights in terms of how Halloween Horror Nights does their original houses. I don't know if it's a fair comparison this year, considering a lot of the original houses at HHN are very story-specific, whereas these houses are definitely more like wide open in the interpretation of the story, and the themes are set, but it's not like they're trying to go at it with the same story that Universal does. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just, I feel like it's the type of thing, the more you do and the more houses you come up with, the more you're able to lean into that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm looking back right now because there was Water's Edge Inn, Captain's Revenge, Beneath the Ice, and Dead Vines. And, I don't know. I think the, like, Beneath the Ice, that theming really came through of being like, oh, I'm in like a research center. It's very like it, you know.
Well, so did the Water's Edge Inn, and it's no surprise that we
Yeah.
thought the two standout houses were Water's Edge Inn and Beneath the Ice.
Yeah, and that was where I was like, oh, those were cool. Like, also, what kind of threw me, which is very different from Universal, is like the actors are actually speaking. Like the characters in the scare zones, if that's what they're called, and the people in the houses and everything are talking to you while you go through, and that was so weird to me because it wasn't like pre-recorded anything. I mean, there was like the music and the sound effects and stuff like that, but it wasn't that same way where like, you know, the ones at Universal are kind of lip syncing or they make a sound or whatever.
Yeah.
At SeaWorld, they were like, there was like the one person that was pacing back and forth in the cage that was just talking to themselves. And I was like, oh, I was like, it definitely gives it a different vibe.
Exactly. And they use a lot more props and stuff to scare you. They'll
Yes.
hit barrels. They will use
Yeah.
what they have on them to get the scares versus Universal, where, as you said, it is really hit the foot pedal, trigger the light and sound, and then they scare you.
Yeah.
This is them using their voice, their emotions almost to a point, and any
Yeah.
props they might have to try to scare you too. And it's just, I think some were done more effectively than others. The like we said, and again, this is just from our experience that night. We paid nothing, but
Yeah.
Beneath the Ice was our group's favorite house.
Yeah.
And the point of that one is no one has heard from Base Camp since it was. My phone just literally decided to refresh there.
No one's heard from Base Camp since it was entombed in snow. You're here to find survivors, but you'll wish you had.
Yeah. And from there, our next favorite house was Water's Edge Inn, which was what began as an escape to a peaceful seaside hotel has turned into a terrifying struggle to find an escape from it. I don't know if I said that, like, if I read that off
An
properly.
escape from it.
Yeah, what began as an escape to a peaceful seaside hotel has turned into a terrifying struggle to find an escape from it. And it was very creepy. It had that seaside vibe to it. It had the hotel vibe running
Yeah.
all the way through. It was very effective. Even Captain's Revenge. When a cursed pirate has plotted your demise, perhaps you shouldn't go searching for him in the murky depths of his ship. You know, it was a pirate themed house. It came clear. I think this one was also in Tampa at one point in time because it felt very familiar to a house I did there. And you know, the pirate vibe, very easy to do. And the only one that we just really did not connect with was Dead Vines.
Yeah.
And there's no innocent garden stroll. You've just wandered into a terrifying realm of ravenous plants and hidden horrors. But with that, it felt very much like the Universal house from a couple years ago that was all about plants overtaking everything.
Yeah.
And that wasn't our favorite house there. So I think that aesthetic just doesn't vibe with me.
I will say this: I get scared all the time, and I definitely with me, Kylie, and then our friend Brandon's husband Michael, like we're scared people who yell, and every house we definitely the three of us yell. You know, got taken by surprise. And I agree with your ranking though of the completely, you know, the hotel and the ice one had like the scariest parts.
And I'll say, even I got scared in the last two houses. They got me at moments.
Yeah.
So if they are able to scare me, then that means they're doing their job right. And I think the one thing that separates them from like Halloween Horror Nights is HHN always in the houses. They try to have that one big set piece as you're coming in to the houses to really establish the story. These ones just kind of thrust you in, but that's not a problem. That's not, I don't think that's a problem at all. It's just a different style. And I will say too, we didn't get to start. We were there until a night where it closed at 1:00. We didn't start on houses until 10:30. I want to say.
Was it really that late?
Yeah, it was really that late because we watched the show at 10:00 and then
Before we'd even done a house?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you sure we didn't do the Vine House before that?
No, we did not. We did all four houses in a row
Good for
and
us.
sirens in the middle of it. And we did all four houses before the park closed. And we went on a Saturday night. So it's not like it was.
I was worried about that. And it was, I mean, there were people there. There was no question that there were people there.
Yeah.
You know?
But we accomplished it waiting in regular lines, not without we did it without using like their front of the line express pass.
Yeah.
So that was a nice benefit on it too. And ultimately, the last thing I have to say is the price. You know, The price on like the night we went, if you bought a ticket, was around $75.
Yeah.
But the tickets for this event started at like 42.
Yeah.
Compared to Universal starting at I think 65.
Yeah,
their cheapest.
And you get an annual pass holder discount on the tickets too. Because I know Brandon and Michael are annual pass annual pass holders at SeaWorld, and they got a pretty good discount on their ticket. I don't remember what it was, but they also are in the tier where they get like 50% off of merchandise too, which is crazy.
50% off merchandise and alcohol in those parks. And
I didn't know we got a discount on alcohol.
It was, there was a discount. It wasn't 50% on alcohol, but it was like, I think 10 or 20% on alcohol.
Yeah,
too.
It might have been like 10. I feel like maybe he said that or something. Yeah. But that's kind of like, well, good. Okay. That's nice for them.
Yeah.
You know?
So there are perks of it. If you're thinking about being a SeaWorld pass holder and then throwing on the event too, there's definitely a lot to consider with that. But I think my big takeaway is I enjoyed my night there, and I will do it again next year, happily paying for it as well too. It just, we were going to go on our own and pay for it and just do it for fun, whether or not anything happened with SeaWorld. But when they invited us, then it was a no-brainer. So thank you to our friends at SeaWorld for inviting us out to check out the event. And again, we did not pay for it, but I would recommend it to anyone looking for something different in Orlando.
Yeah, we were literally walking out in the parking lot, and we all, like, the second we got out of the gate, we're like, I'd definitely pay to go again next season at least once.
Yep.
So
I
don't. We'll see if how big the event grows to, or something.
Yeah.
I'd be curious going as far down to go to Busch Gardens, because I've never done the one that's down in Tampa.
Yeah.
So
if you had the option to buy like the tickets where you could buy a ticket where you get both nights of the event included in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, both events included, not the same night, obviously, but buy one ticket, get to go to Tampa and Orlando with it. So that's a good deal. They did offer, multiple nights. I'm glad I didn't do it this year, but next year, if they add another house or two, absolutely. Yeah. I'll be getting that, because I would have went back again if we didn't just run out of time with it. I really thought that for their first year that they did something admirable.
Yeah, I look forward to see how it grows.
Yeah, me too. But that's going to do it for this Halloween-themed episode of the Dis Unplugged Universal Edition. Like, as if the past month hasn't been Halloween-themed. Past 2 months haven't been Halloween-themed. And
it will continue to be after this.
Yes,
after Christmas, January 1st, Halloween.
Yeah, we have to do next week we'll probably do our final HHN rankings and all of that.
Mine are drastically different.
Mine are also drastically different, but we thought this was a nice little detour as a Halloween special to talk about the difference and compare Howl-O-Scream Orlando and Halloween Horror Nights. But that's it for this week's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, and you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to UOFan, and then leave comments, questions, and video suggestions in the comment section below. I am struggling to talk and breathe right now. And if you are listening to this, please make sure you are subscribed wherever you listen. And if it's through Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving a 5-star rating and review if you're enjoying the show. And if you want to support us further, you can always book your next vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. Get a free no obligation quote today at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. But that's it for me and Rhino today. Rhino, thank you so much for the conversation.
Hey, something Ghostbuster.
Yes, and thank you so much to SeaWorld again. And more importantly, thank you so much to everyone out there for listening and watching. I truly hope you appreciated it. I hope you have a fun Halloween. Stay safe out there. And we will see you again real soon with another episode of the Dis Unplugged Universal Edition. But until then, remember, we still haven't changed the name.
Ooh.
Happy Halloween.